I now have the privilege of introducing Christopher Osborne. Yeah? So Christopher Osborne leads the product org, has led the product org at DeepL as the VP of product for the last 4 years. And he's helped scale it from 65 people to now over 900 into what is now one of the very few AI unicorns in Europe. Previously, he was a product director at Booking.com and has more than 17 years of experience working at startups, scaling them to big tech, and now has left again, of course, to go lead DeepL in the startup world. So he's here to tell us about how to compete with Google, Microsoft, and OpenAI. Please welcome Christopher.
Everybody, it's very dramatic introductory music, so thank you for that. Yeah, good morning. Interesting circles in my life. I think the last time I was here was about 6 years ago, when I was part of what was then quite a very large technology company. And I was in touch with Adrian, the chair, the organizer of this big conference, let's say about 6 months ago. And he said, hey, really interested in what you're doing at DeepL. And it is very interesting for me because 6 years ago, part of a very big tech company, left it all behind, joined what was then a very small startup. And from day one, we were actually competing directly with Google for users and for our business. And of course, things have evolved in AI since then. You've all seen what's going on. It's probably the most competitive and fastest moving technology environments I've ever seen, actually, despite having been around the block a few times and gone a bit grey. And yeah, I am here to talk about what it's like to compete with people like Google, OpenAI, etc. And I think the best way of doing that is really just talking you through the different stages of growth and the different things we've been doing, and like literally how we built DeepL over 3 different stages of growth. First of all, just a very quick intro. If you don't know who we are, lots of people in Europe do, but of course not everybody does. Our vision and what DeepL is doing is to bring about a world without language barriers. And that means most people know us for our biggest product. We have evolved our product suite over time, but by far and away, the biggest product and most popular product we have is our translator, which looks like this. Why is DeepL, well, I guess long-term successful, but why are we well known? Why am I here? Why do you know our translator product? It is because literally it's the world's most accurate translator. We have been working on AI and machine learning for many, many long years. Despite the recent advances that you're seeing, and it's moving incredibly fast, this is all building upon many years of research and learning and technology development. And that essentially is why I'm here, is because we built the world's best quality when it comes to translating between languages. And this is just a little visualization of how we do our testing. And by the way, despite everything seeming to be automated in the world of AI, the thing behind it is, of course, humans, not just developing the models and the technology, but a large number of people testing and evaluating. And this is the outputs from some of our evaluations, which very simply says, if you look at a large number of translations and you test them across different platforms, for example, if we're comparing with ChatGPT, across all of these tests, we are 1.7 times more likely to be chosen as the best translation. So simply, we're providing better quality translation than any models or AI out there. Okay, let's go a little bit into the story of how we built this. I joined in March of 2020, so just over 4.5 years ago. At that point, I was the first person I think I was the first person not based in Germany. I was the second person who didn't speak German. So at that point, we went from being live in 1 country in terms of offices to 2. Over time, we built what was a very small core collection of people who are AI researchers, linguists, and developers. We've grown from about 50 people when I joined to over 1,000 in just 4.5 years. We've got to the scale of 120 million monthly active users, which is pretty good by anybody's reckoning. That's a large user base. And in terms of ARR, this is not recent or up-to-date data in any way, but just illustrating, when I joined, super early stage, we crossed the magic 100 million ARR line. By the way, if you don't know why it's magic, it's kind of what gets you to unicorn status. And we crossed that quite some time ago. And yes, we're available in 228 markets, and we have grown from being just one product to two, and very shortly to 3 products. So a lot has happened in 4.5 years, and I'll try and take you through how we've done this, how we built a business competing against Google to now even having a much more competitive landscape, and just take you through the different stages of growth. First, when I joined, you could already see we were growing. We had a strong user growth momentum, and if you saw me 6 years ago, which is probably unlikely, or if you've seen some of my presentations since then, I often talk about growth, and I talk about rules or principles which are going to help you grow your business or grow your product. And one of them is this, or this is the first one. So rather obviously, I applied that to what I was doing in my own work and at DeepL, which was trying to understand what was our growth engine. When I arrived, we didn't have great revenue, but we very clearly had strong user growth. That was already happening. So I think the first thing to do to really understand and help drive your business at this early stage is figure out your growth engine. Maybe you haven't found it yet, but you do need to find one. And this is really going to help you to execute in the right areas so you can grow fast. What does it look like? Again, some classic examples. Everybody should know these by now, but just very briefly, left-hand side, the Amazon flywheel, probably the original, or at least the first one that I can remember. On the right-hand side is the Uber flywheel, famously sketched on the back of a napkin at some point. And the principle is, if you can understand how you're growing, you can see the key points. If you focus on these key points, this is what's going to really help you grow. Jeff Bezos, at some point, decided what was most important was customer experience. If they really focused on making the best customer experience, people would come back and they would do more shopping, or they would buy again with Amazon. Basically brought more traffic to the site. If you have more traffic on your site, you're more attractive to third-party sellers, so it pulls and has a gravitation effect. You get more people selling on your platform. More people selling on your platform means you have a better selection. This is a better customer experience. There's more things to buy, which brings more customers to your store. So this great feedback loop of if you push one or two of these forward, it has impact on the whole thing, and you get what you call this flywheel effect, which drives growth. And then you can also have parallel effects here, which is that if you have more customers on the platform, more sellers on the platform, that drives competition. You can see this kind of parallel arc in the top left. More competition, more people means more efficiencies of scale, and it also means more pressure on price and competition. A lower price is a better customer experience, which brings more people to the store. That's the flywheel effect. So this was the DeepL flywheel. That's my desk at some point in 2020. Sat down with a piece of paper, thought about why are we growing, how are we growing, what's the growth engine for DeepL? Looked like this. Best translation experience. This was why we had user growth. Our customer journey did not start with DeepL. Our customer journey did not start with acquiring traffic. Our customer journey actually started with Google, because that was the default translator on the web. All the people already there, already using that product. So in order to come and use our product and actually be meaningful, we had to have a better product. And we did, because more customers were arriving. So we had a large number of people, and for the first 2 years, in our early stage of growth, really just focused on end user experience. We had a bunch of people looking at our translator, looking at the models, looking at the experience, trying to combine the best quality translation models in the world with the best user experience, or with the, not saying we're always the best, but we certainly try to be. The two are not the same, but we definitely try. But really understanding, okay, what are our users doing? What is their context? What jobs are they working on? And really trying to combine the two into the best translation experience. This for us essentially was all of our marketing for about 4 years, actually, our free-to-use product. Why? If you have this higher quality product, the best translation experience, what happens when somebody like me, so I'm an expat, I've lived in a couple of different countries, my language ability varies depending on where I am and what language, and let's say right now, I'll receive daily emails in a language which is kind of uncomfortable, sort of understand it, but I definitely don't understand it fully. I have this natural demand where I'm getting content where I want to understand what it is. If this kind of person meets a product which is higher quality, it's essentially exactly the right match, right? So I have a need for this product, I have this innate demand, and then I start using the product on a daily basis. I start becoming this high frequency user. Somebody who's using a product every day with high frequency, and they associate this product with higher quality, like literally the feedback we always got was better than Google, these people become word of mouth promoters. And for our first 4 years, all of our growth was driven organically. People discovering the product, recommending it to friends, family, and going into businesses, etc. So this was driving all of our new user growth. We had also people invested there to make sure people could land, people could activate, we had SEO optimization, etc. Then, if you have this large user base and a lot of people are getting value from your product, we could monetize these people, but only the people who are getting really high value or high frequency, etc. Nobody else is going to pay, but just look for the people who are getting real high value. This growth engine, quite simple. The beauty of it is the simplicity, in that I can look at it, draw circles around 3 things, and say, okay, these are the things that drives growth. If we just do these 3 things, this is where all the impact is. And then you can organize your people. It's a super easy message to transmit. It's like, this group just care about the professional users on the site and monetizing the people who we think should be paying for a subscription, building self-serve channels, making sure that the product works for them and that we can put people into paying plans. This group, you care about new users. What can we do to make sure we've got a good landing experience? Do we need to build landing pages? Do we need to do growth hacking? Should we just be working on PR articles because that's where word of mouth is driven from? And finally, a group of people focused on the best translation experience. Very simple, quite hard to boil down sometimes a business into simple things, but at an early stage, if you can really figure out your growth engine and then just say, hey, these are the 3 things which drive growth, ultimate clarity, very easy to organize around, get people moving fast and having high impact. Okay. So, very simply, pretty much that's what we did for 2 years. We were focused on end users, we figured out our flywheel, we got huge quantities of user data, we had incredibly high user growth. User growth essentially correlated 1.0. It's like as close to 1.0 as you can. More users, more revenue, and the two just were kind of in lockstep. So very clear, just continue what we're doing, make sure we bring more people to the platform. The free-to-use product, as I said, was essentially a marketing channel. Really, really strong place to be in, because if people are using your product and they're thinking it's a high-quality product, they're already using it at home, guess what? If they're using it at home, they're going to use it at work too. So this meant that in workplaces and businesses, if they were thinking about translation or using it, we were also top of mind, and we were kind of the first choice where people would think about using DeepL in a business environment too. Okay, let's go into the second stage. So pretty much 2 years, focus on the flywheel, execute, which is what you should do in early stage. Focus and execute and make it simple. Once you made it simple, just focus on the execution. Second stage, nice quote from Reid Hoffman, which I was looking at last week. In startups, Strategy emerges from hundreds of daily decisions, not annual planning sessions. I think, very important, early stage, high growth stage, you should not be planning 5 years in ahead. You have all of these inputs, or you should have all of these inputs. And we'd built our product, and we've built also our systems in a way where we had huge quantities of data. We didn't have middle management. We didn't have executive layers of management. I think, I've got this fancy job title of VP. I think I only stopped working directly with the product team about 2 years ago, because in the early stages, I was hands-on on the product, running multiple teams, doing all kinds of things, and being exposed to the data and to our users all of the time. What did this tell us in early stages? I won't say the country, very recent data. This is sessions, people arriving on the site and doing stuff. What can you see? Well, actually, there was a long weekend, I guess, because you see these 2 low humps and a third low hump. This is essentially a weekend where people are less active and working less. What can you see on the left-hand side? These are working days, and this is by hour. And if you've got good enough eyes, what you'll actually see is that by 2 p.m., 2 p.m. on a working day, activity has already peaked and is dropping off. Might also say something a little bit about European productivity and where we need to get as an economy, that by 2 p.m. people are essentially stopping to do active tasks. Moving on from my points about the economy, this is just saying people are using the product at work. Right? It just massively correlates with working hours. By 2 p.m. there's already a massive drop-off. The product is being used extensively in the workplace and for work activities. What else do we see? I've obscured the real data. I felt that was a little bit too much to share. Again, we've got data coming at us. We're observing everything. We're able to make fast decisions and see which way to take the product and the business. Top half, a lot of people come here with very simple needs. I have this text. I just want to understand it. I just want to consume this. We don't want to get in their way. They should use the product. They're getting value. But it's a very fast transactional consumption. Bottom half, super interesting. What we saw was a very large percentage of users were actually doing very high value knowledge worker business activity in our product. They were writing documents, they were writing long emails, sometimes just writing short emails, etc. But people were taking their existing workflows, doing it in our product, and we could see it in the data that actually we had very considerable usage from people who were getting like really high value tasks in a business environment. So this was just really showing the way for us that actually we've got a really strong business product here. And yeah, stage 2. We've still got millions of users. This is not an exact number, but roughly 50% of all activity is actually business usage on our platform. And as I said, they're knowledge workers creating content, doing high value tasks. This is a really like high value work, and basically their workflow is already happening on our platform. So what did we do? We emerged and we evolved our strategy over time. No like significant huge change you'll notice here, but it's a step forward, it's an evolution. We're responding to the signals of what's going on the platform in terms of users and how they're using the product, and we're also evolving our business strategy. Actually, the big thing, I guess, just to realize, top left, top right, we had people landing on the site, we had people starting subscriptions, perhaps 1 seat, perhaps 10 seats or 20 seats. Most of this was in businesses. If you study, other examples of product-led growth, I'm sure you have good examples: Dropbox, Figma, Slack, Miro, I think we were here earlier. You've got people and businesses landing in your product and landing in subscriptions. From there, you get a lot of data and information, and then you can work directly with your customers to drive organic expansion within these businesses. So not a huge change to our strategy, but we focused slightly on different users, and we started to really say, okay, how do we drive the business in terms of a land and expand motion? I think my clicker has stopped, or my laptop has stopped. Just trying it. Okay, now we're working. So yes, the growth continues. As I said, we had these innate advantages that we kind of built into the product. So people were landing, we were then expanding them into more seats and across different parts of the business. We could open new markets, which was driving growth. Very importantly, actually, because of the data we had and the instrumentation we had and understanding of users, what's going on, we could actually turn this into very valuable data products for our sales team, for our go-to-market, so they knew who was on the platform, what was going on, and this created a huge number of opportunities for us. Essentially, we have this great flywheel for bringing users, for growing direct revenue, but also this flywheel is essentially just creating also a huge inbound pipeline of businesses that are opportunities for us to turn into larger opportunities in the future. My main point here is actually, though, that if you are operating in the right way, with the right inputs, I showed obscured parts of data, etc., but we're talking to our customers, we understand what our users are doing, and we've also got this large data access where we can see an awful lot of what's going on. In an early stage company, or a high growth company, I think it's really important to just think strategy is emergent, something that will evolve over time, and it's not something you should lock yourself away for 6 months, come up with this grand strategy, because very high probability you're going to be wrong. And it's also not something we should not plan 3 years in ahead. You're looking short term, short horizons, and then evolving your strategy over time. And I do think this is kind of a mistake people make. Things change over time, but in early stages, your strategy should be fluid, emergent, and evolving. Then what happens? Interesting times for us. So I'll try and explain this briefly. It's quite complicated. This is search traffic. This is just what you can pull from Google in terms of search traffic trends. Top is one of the keywords which matters for us, which is the word translate. And you can see it's growing, slowly but steadily. And then actually there's quite a big drop off right at the end there. The green line, which you can see here, is non-existent. This is people searching for ChatGPT, which, as we all know, has come in and changed the game in terms of what's happening with AI and how people are using AI specifically. You see this kind of, obviously it didn't exist until the end of November 2022. ChatGPT is released, you see this growth. GPT-4 is released on this second line here, the middle of March. From there, activity is seasonal, by the way, so this dip you see is basically summer period where people are less active. You see this very, very rapid growth of ChatGPT, and then actually super significant, and I'm not sure enough people have seen or know this, it's really, really taken usage for many use cases away from people were originally doing things, which is people would go to Google and type in translate. There's been a 25% drop off in people searching for translate, and in the background, this is, I'm very poor at time management. This is just very simple. Google Translate users versus ChatGPT, incredible growth. Completely changed the competitive landscape. So for us, what did this mean? Very clearly we had a lot of different competition. This is simply something actually I had in a very old slide deck from about 18 months ago when this transition was happening. We were obviously clearly monitoring GPT in the competitive landscape. This is just pulled from a deck from 18 months ago when people were asking, how do we respond to this? The very simple answer is that actually we really continued what we'd always been doing. This was how we'd approach building our product, or just at least the customer experience. We didn't change, actually. We might have changed the technologies we're using behind it, but we actually stayed really, really focused on what had made us successful to that point. We did not change course in terms of how we approached the product or in terms of how we approached our customers and the user experience. We stayed on course. I'm gonna flick through that. This, I think, I will actually read through, because this is my point, and it comes from this book. I don't read many business books, but in the bottom left you can see it's From Good to Great, where they talk about principles they discovered which helped people create a great company versus good companies. They looked at what was distinguishing features. It's probably the only business book I've actually read. And in this, they have this flywheel of growth. Surprise, surprise, there's quite a lot of flywheels today. There's a very important thing in there, which is about the flywheel and about gaining momentum. And very long text. Point is, you spend a lot of effort pushing in one direction, aligning your people, getting everybody to move on these things that are important. If everybody's pushing enough, you get this very heavy flywheel eventually spinning. But if everybody keeps on pushing in the right directions, the thing keeps on spinning faster and faster. You've got momentum. And then at the end, like each turn is building upon the work. Each input is compounding the effort, and it almost just builds momentum and spins faster and faster and faster once you've got this flywheel working. This, I think, is the final thing I'll say. People really, really underestimate momentum. One of the stories you'll often hear in startup scale-ups is change KPI this quarter, change your strategy, and just constant flip-flopping. You will never, ever build a successful business or a successful startup or scale-up if you're always flip-flopping on strategy, changing KPIs. You have to take your time, be disciplined, find the right strategy, and just consistently take many, many small steps forward to gain momentum. It's really key for success. And when we saw this competitive change in the landscape, we didn't throw away. We changed our technology, we've changed multiple things, but underneath it, we saw what was making us successful. We understood how to build a good product, and we just kept on steadily progressing forward. And we've still kept our momentum, and we're still competing in one of the most competitive landscapes there is. And now, I do have to stop. I can talk for a very long time about things I'm excited and interested about, which is my time management problem, but I believe I have to stop.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Christopher, for sharing your experience with us.